I do.
You know each other too much. Yes.
Yes. There we go. Go, 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 go,
Okay.
go, 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 go,
Hello
go,
and
go.
welcome to Hello and welcome to Morning's Culture. Good morning, sir. Good morning, screen.
Good morning, Speed.
Yes. Okay, and good mornings to everyone who is going to join us live and will watch us recorded later. You all are most welcome to join this morning space, this free space where you can aspire to be more than who you are right now. And of course, you can be yourself. It's a profound privilege, it's a profound opportunity where to find a person, place, to find a community. Okay, yes, it's small right now, but it's building, it's moving, it's growing. To find a community where you can be yourself and you can aspire to be more without having any ego, any superiority nonsense. It's a big thing. Just for the talk of the day or thought of the day, um, while Sil is busy sharing, I was thinking about how we sometimes perceive things which we are not very pleased about, like sadness, like feeling bothered, like feeling irritated or upset, or having some resentments or something
Somebody knows
like
about that.
yes, it happens
It
sometimes.
happens.
I don't want to get into specifics.
I'm teasing myself for those who don't know. I woke up with a mood that I have no idea where this mood
But
comes from.
of course, you are not alone. We
Yeah,
have this thing, and okay,
it's
just for
strange.
the like quoting a meme and referring towards memes, and how
Yeah.
we accept things as a norm. Like, oh, some are morning people and some are not, and people flaunt this that oh, I need my coffee in the morning first. Before that, please don't talk to me. Don't even show your face to me. We take it as a normal thing. We take it as a natural thing. We take it as a natural behavior or something kind of sometimes like a subtle pride in it that, oh, don't talk to me. I didn't have my coffee yet. It is, we are establishing it as natural, as normal. And it is not, of course. There are some reason for that. Maybe a night before or you were having like a lot of sugar intake. I'm not against it, but I'm saying maybe overload of sugar. Maybe you were not sleeping well. Maybe something else was bothering you. And then you are physically,
I know what causes it, by the way.
yes, yes, okay, what?
Sunspots. Sunspots. It's all due to the
You have,
sunspots. That's the troublemaker. Sunspots.
okay. Okay, this could be in many cases this could be a medical condition, malnutrition or other things which can cause you feel like this in the morning, because otherwise your resting time, your sleep time supposed to be like really making you rejuvenate. It has to be like that. You have to feel good about it, you have to feel full of energy. If you are not feeling, there is nothing to flaunt about it. There is nothing to make it, try to make it normal or assume it natural. As about, okay, coming back to the point, that resentment, like sometimes just irritation, just subtle feeling bothered with nothing specific. Some spiritual ideas from Asia, they say that weeds grow naturally, but to really plant roses, you have to really cultivate them. You have to put some effort, deliberate effort. And they say that same applies to positive, happy feelings. Those negative feelings, those not so pleasant feelings, they just grow like weeds without any effort. But to have something positive, to have something really chosen one, you have to cultivate them. You have to
Yeah.
put some effort. You have to
Yes.
deliberately choose your mood. And this is what I was thinking about when Sil used to say, of course, and it still says about, we can choose our mood. And I was like, seriously, sir, moods are
Absolutely.
natural.
Yeah.
That was my first response towards that. Moods are natural, or maybe it is dependent on
Yes.
some consequence, like okay, some
Yes.
circumstances when someone
Yes.
teasing me, or
Yes.
someone irritating me, or
Yes.
someone is bothering, or something is bothering me, I
Yes.
am going to feel bothered. That's
Right.
how stubborn my mind was.
Exactly. And I just want to make a quick comment here. Yes, moods are
Yes,
natural. So is unawareness.
exactly. I
Ah,
knew that the bomb is coming.
it's panic. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But. If unawareness is natural, I don't want to be unaware. Well, don't accept your nonsense moods either. Thank you very much. Yeah. You don't accept unawareness, don't accept your moods either. Unwanted moods.
So, okay, we were starting with a very serious thing, but now we are getting back
Sorry.
into
Well,
our
I'm sorry.
natural mood.
I don't mean to make fun of it, but I was actually being serious.
No,
In the same way
no,
as we consider moods to be natural, so is unawareness. Right? I'm actually going to add that to my quote file. Yes, moods
exactly.
are
So,
natural, but so is unawareness.
okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes, it is. So
Sorry, I mean
this
to be
is what we
serious
were.
about it. It's a very serious point, but it's
No,
also amusing.
actually, sir. No, actually, I am actually happy that it really worked, because this is what I was trying to do. That okay, yes, deliberately choosing a different mood. Yes, we have that, but also being aware of something. Awareness sometimes, as one of our dear friends says once, that okay, um, awareness is self-curative. I just add a qualifier there, that okay, sometimes in some situation, yes,
I love that.
awareness is self-curative, because sometimes it is not. Okay, I can say share something about it, but anyway, awareness is self-curative in this regard, especially in this situation, because once you are aware that things are whatever I'm feeling right now, the mood I'm having right now, first, it is coming out of nothing, which really lifts the pressure or stress about, like, oh, something is wrong, something is, no, nothing is wrong. The world is exactly the same as I really want it to be, or what it was before when I was feeling good, is a big, huge thing. Immediately when we realize that it is coming out of nothing, which means that I have nothing to really worry about. First thing, done. Okay. Second thing about this, when we realize that okay, yes, these are things and they are coming, and I'm going to choose different, I have to do something. The moment of empowerment right there. Okay, oh, it was coming to me, I'm not going to allow this, but I'm not going to really bother about that, I'm not going to stress about it. The moment of empowerment right there, taking my power back to me. Okay, now, okay, yes, it is coming. I was feeling it was happening, but now I'm taking my power back. Second step, really profound. Third step, I'm going to do something. The moment I say it to myself that I'm going to choose to feel different, choose to have a different mood of my choice, now it's a moreness. Unhooking from the norms is okay, yes, it's profound, it's learning, it's growing, it's part of it. But understanding, realizing, acknowledging that I can choose and I'm going to choose different, this is a moreness thing now. And once you acquire, or once you do, and once you get into a moreness gesture, nothing actually bothers you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nothing actually bothers you. All the
Exactly.
negativity and everything just go, like, really, they start shrinking immediately,
Yeah.
because I'm choosing. So for me, the key is to having this understanding that things can come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
beyond my awareness. Okay, yeah, I'm feeling
Yeah.
negative not because of anything. Okay, yes, it is happening. I'm feeling this, which is not making me a bad person, not making me a negative person. It is like, okay, yes, it is coming. Okay, now I'm unhooking myself. First, awareness. Second, unhooking. Third thing, gesture, moreness gesture, and done. And done.
That
Okay.
powerful.
Oh, this is so powerful, sir. This is so powerful. And I'm glad, I'm
It's
really
huge.
happy that you really just make it into a bit of like an amusing
Yeah,
side, and then just turn it into that, because this was necessary. We need a
yeah,
bit exaggerated gesture to get out of that mood.
yeah, yeah,
So that was fun. Okay, I hope
yeah.
that you are done with all your sharing.
Yes, yes. Bina, just to
Yes,
add something to that,
please.
uh, uh, in terms of our language, and I expressed myself inaccurately. I said,
Hmm.
at least when we first started talking, I'm feeling this and that, but I have done this before, but I forgot today. What I really need to say is, I'm well, not I am feeling, but I'm
Hmm.
experiencing something which isn't
Oh,
me,
wow. Yes. Yes. A
which
wonderful
is
reminder,
different to
sir.
me feeling it. It's not my feeling. It's who knows where this feeling comes from. No idea.
Oh, yes.
And that's
Oh, yes.
important.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yes.
important to
So
distinguish.
huge.
And part of
So
way of
huge.
impeccability is it is one of the quotes from way of impeccability is just because I'm feeling it doesn't make it my own. Right?
Yes.
This is very important. Very, very, very important. Then when we understand this difference, then we start to realize, wait a second, there's something else going on here. And I don't have to feel this. I don't have to feel this. Yeah. I don't have to. And I can change it, right?
Exactly.
Because it's not my feeling, it's coming from elsewhere. It's like when you smell a smell, in the cartoons, that little wavy thing that goes and it comes past the nose and then whatever. I don't know. Usually in the cartoons, whenever that happens, there's some wild reaction, right?
Hmm.
But just because you're smelling something doesn't mean the smell is coming from you, right?
Hmm.
When my neighbors were
Hmm.
cooking that awful cabbage, whatever the hell they were cooking, that mean I was smelling like cabbage. At least I hope not. he says, he says with a bit of doubt, like, wait a second, I never considered this. Now he's questioning, like it's a possibility. Seriously, so come on now. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to say. Seriously, so. Anyway,
Yes. But that was
but
funny. That was funny.
thank you. Anyway, we're gonna have fun too. We're gonna have fun too. It's very important to have fun. Right, we'll start reading in a second. Yeah, we'll start reading in a second. I'm trying to get TikTok to work again, and who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. It's never any logic to it. Nope, error has occurred. All right, well, let me just close this. I'm still waiting for somebody on someday to say, so this is what you need to get TikTok to work with Restream. You know, I'm hoping somebody will be kind and help me out here because I tried to do their help and other nothing. Let's try again. I can't even close the TikTok window. Really? And there we go. All right. Let's continue where we are. We are exciting. We are starting chapter 1 of the third book. Very fun. And I shall screen share. But what Bina was saying was very important. Very, very, very important to pay attention. Very, very, very big deal. In other words, big deal, big deal. Right, Bina?
Yes.
And you can see my computer rebooted because I'm here at it resets to the top, not to where we were. These are all the books, by the way. They're all in one file. Yeah, which is very cool. To have them all here. I think I went too far now. Yeah. But it's hard to find my place sometimes because obviously the pages are, uh, they repeat. So if you're looking for page 14, there's going to be 14 page 14. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. um, Carlos is like, and where are you from, right? Were you born in this locality? In other words, Carlos asking banal questions. Yeah. And we're going to come back to this, the pointlessness of it. And Don Juan, he makes a point here, right? I began to
Hmm.
explain the circumstances of my birth, but he interrupted me. We are alike in this respect. I live here now, but I'm really a yucky from Sonora. Is that so? I myself come from. He did not let me finish. I know. You are who you are, from wherever you are. Because I am a yucky from Sonora. In other words, it's irrelevant. Yeah. Don't make a big deal out of it, Carlos. It's meaningless. Yeah. There are many yuckies from
Hmm.
Sonora, and none of them are Don Juan. Yeah, there are many immigrants from South America. None of them are Carlos. What does it matter where you're from? Does it really say anything about you? Does being a South American make you this, that, or the other? No. I mean, when you take the average South American, I think he was from either Peru or Colombia or something like that. It's a bit vague where he's exactly from. But, you know, Carlos is not a typical Colombian or Peruvian or South American. Nobody's a typical anything. Take anything and you look a bit closer and you see the differences between people. Any group, right? Look inside a family, for heaven's sake, where you would expect people to be all the same. They are very different, right, Bina?
Exactly. Yes.
So what differences? And you're looking to know where somebody's from. To what purpose? Does it actually provide you some information? Well, when people ask me this, I used to say I'm from the internet, which is better than saying wherever, some place. Because that at least now is giving me some information. Oh, well, they're not kind of usual and normal. And well, that's very informative. That actually helps. But I prefer to say I'm from Novelia. Now that's a place that does tell you something about somebody because that's a voluntary society. Right? Or I'm from Mourner's culture. Okay, that does tell you something as well. All right. Let's continue, Bina. And yeah,
Okay.
from let's see, his eyes were very shiny and his laughter. Yeah, I think we read some of
Will you
this, but
please just. Oh, okay.
from the very top, from the very top.
Okay. His eyes were very shiny and his laughter was strangely
By the way,
unsettling.
by the way,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not inside; it's on top. Okay, I'm making a private joke. This was a joke. This was a commercial. So the guy's all unshaven in the morning. He's going for his coffee and he's all gruff and grumpy and he's looking for the creamer. And he shouts to his wife, Doris, where's the creamer? It's by the fridge. And you hear the little voice in the background. It's not inside, it's on top. And it's going, he's looking away. It's not inside, it's not inside, it's on top, it's not inside. And then he clicks, right? And he gets this awareness. It's on top. Because the creamer doesn't have to go in the fridge. But because it tastes so good, tastes like real cream, he's looking inside the fridge. So it's a very brilliant ad, right? But the guy, his voice
Yes.
was so good. Inside, it's on. He like really gets it. He was all cross with the wife, right? Grumpy and crotchety, and then he realized, no, I'm being the idiot. So that's, I don't
Yeah.
know, something you said about being on top or inside made me think of
Yes.
that. Anyway, I
Okay.
don't know. Who knows,
His
Bina? It's
eye.
just the sunspots. It's just the sunspots
Yes. Could be. His eyes were very
today.
shiny and his laughter was strangely unsettling. He made me feel as if he had caught me in a lie. I experienced a peculiar sensation of guilt. I had the feeling he knew something I did not know or did not want to tell. My strange embarrassment grew. He must have noticed it, for he stood up and asked me if I wanted to go eat in a restaurant in town. Walking
All right,
back to
let's
his
just stop
home.
here. Let's just stop here.
Yes.
Don Juan did something very subtle. Yes. If we scroll up a little bit here, right? Where we are like in that respect, he said, I live here now, but I'm really a Yaki from Sonora. Is that so? I myself come from. And then he cuts him off, right? He did not let me finish. I know. You are who you are, from wherever you are, right? And in this, Don Juan is changing the conversation via implication. Yes. If you listen to this by implication, it's like he cut him off. It's not important, Carlos.
Mm.
But for Carlos, this is like not just important, but he feels he has to do this as a polite person. You have to ask where people are from. Yeah. So now he's unsettled, and he doesn't quite know what. Right? He made me feel as if he had caught me in a lie. Well, kind of in a way it is, because when you are saying I'm from here, I'm this and that, you're building a persona, you're building an idea about yourself, which it's just inaccurate. It doesn't mean anything, right? It's BS, in other words, right? Not that you're trying to BS. That's why he's uncomfortable, unsettled. He doesn't know what exactly, but by implication, you are about to get all involved in nonsense and stuff that doesn't really matter, and John will just cut him off. We don't have to do that stuff, and this is unsettling for Carlos, right? When his social crutches are removed. Yeah. You don't need that stuff, Carlos. You don't need that stuff, right? You just start talking
No,
about
it,
stuff
it
directly.
this no, but this is not unsettling. His laughter was unsettling for him.
Right,
Like,
yeah, but
okay,
no, but yeah, but I mean, he made me feel as if he had caught me in a lie. I experienced a peculiar sensation of guilt, right?
so
I had
it,
a
it
feeling he knew
was
something
it,
I didn't.
by implication, the way he was laughing, it was like,
Right,
okay, you are a new player, you don't know the culture, so it was like, okay, I did something wrong by asking him.
right, but again, all he did was just cut him off from the banalities of small talk, right? But this is, I mean, the laughter comes from cutting him off and saying he is right. So it's all part of the same mechanism. See what I mean? So
Hmm.
Carlos is he's feeling unsettled. He's feeling he's caught in a lie, guilt, all this stuff. He doesn't know what he's feeling because he can't. Don Juan didn't say directly, uh, let's not get caught in, let's not get caught up in small talk. He just he just stopped it and left it up to Carlos to interpret. But because Carlos is so concerned with how he looks and his image and doing, not making a mistake and all of this stuff, the vagueness is giving him all these feelings. The laughter is unsettling, caught in a lie, sensations of guilt, right? He knows something I don't know. He doesn't know what to feel. So he's just trying to find a feeling for it. But it's the uncertainty because his crutch has been removed. So it's kind of on the verge of teetering and toppling over. See?
Hmm.
Really interesting. Very subtle way to make a point, through implication. Uh, Don Juan didn't say directly, this is a waste of time, no need to do this. Right? Interesting, yeah?
Interesting, and of course, a very unusual kind of a thing for a person like who is just coming first time and seeing these things and say that,
Right,
oh,
right,
okay.
right, right, right. And that's the thing. Carlos doesn't update to say, wow, this is a different guy. Small talk isn't
Hmm.
necessary here. He takes it
Yes.
personally. He doesn't relate to the actuality of the situation. He interprets
Hmm.
it as if it's a criticism on him, because Carlos is,
Hmm.
is very deeply insecure. And this is what happens with people who are insecure. So that's why I'm mentioning it. Carlos has all of the stuff. And look, the next thing he says, my strange embarrassment grew. What are you embarrassed about? Because you wanted to talk in small
He
talk and
must
Don
have
Juan
noticed
said,
it.
no, not necessary. Yeah,
Yes, he
keep going.
must have noticed it. For he stood up and asked me if I wanted to go eat in a restaurant in town. Walking back to his home and then driving into town made me feel better, but I was not quite relaxed. I somehow felt threatened, although I could not pinpoint the reason. I wanted to buy him some beer in the restaurant. He said that he never drank, not even beer. I laughed to myself. I did not believe him. The friend who had put us in contact had told me that the old man was plastered out of his mind most of the time. I really
Yeah.
did not
Oh,
mind
oh,
if he
oh,
was lying to.
sorry
Yes,
to interrupt you there, Bina.
yes.
Yes, ask AI, not TikTok. Yes, I have Norma, and they I haven't been able to help me. But Joseph is here also, and Norma. I didn't
Oh,
see
hello,
that. I
Joseph.
was
Hello,
trying to
Norma.
fix the stuff. So brilliant, brilliant. Hello, hello, hello. Uh, Joseph says, yes, where you come from does not make an impact on you. It is your base. No, it's not my base, Joseph. That's what I keep trying to explain. Where I come from is not my base. It never ever has been ever. Yeah, yeah. Not at least not for me. And I do know other people similarly. Also, I'm not the only one who's like this, right?
By
Where I am
base, what?
from has no connection to me whatsoever. It's
No, but I'm
irrelevant.
trying to understand what Joseph means by base. Okay, like your inheritance of your like your genes, your DNA, what actually is
Right,
by
right.
base.
So Joseph goes on to say, yeah, I don't know what base is like. This is something that you always connect to. I'm always changing. I'm always growing. So how can I always go back to that base? The base of what I was way back when. I really and truly wish and hope that I am not in any way connected to that. I've worked very hard not to be connected to my base because I at a very early age, realized my base needed improving. Yeah, my basis, I was unaware. I was a nincompoop. Like, hell no. Sorry. I'm not going to accept this. Yeah. Family members
Hmm.
turn out different, but in dysfunctional families, all kids react differently to their dysfunction. They seem very different, but they're always reacting to the dysfunction. Yeah, well, I was saying like in Venus family is about the most functional family you can imagine. I mean, if there was like an ideal family, this would be Venus family. Yes, I came from a dysfunctional family, and yes, I responded very differently to it. I turned it to my advantage. I made the dysfunction and the big family drama and scandal actually, not just trauma and drama, but scandal. I, I turned it into something that was beneficial to me, that helped me. Yeah? But it was one of the small things of many other stuff in my life. It wasn't a big deal to me. My siblings thought it was a big deal, yeah. And just either by rejecting, going against it, or adopting it. Again, that was not the issue in my life. The dysfunctional family was a very small part. If they'd been functional or dysfunctional, wouldn't have made any difference to me because I was focused on my things. That's why I keep trying to make this point. In traditional psychology and popular psychology, there is this absolute assumption that we are a product of environment, of influence. There's no room in that psychology for somebody creating themselves. It's just an impossibility. It can't happen. And based on what? Based on what? Just because it's not commonly so doesn't mean that it's always so. It's a basic flaw of logic and scientific method and thinking. Simply because something is typically so doesn't mean it's always so. This is just duh. So we have to be very careful of this, right? We have to be very, very careful because when we say somebody typically, what does typically mean? Well, typically could be something more than 50%. Could be 60, 65, 70, 80, 90, could be 99. Well, then it's like almost always, right? So there's always though some percentage that does not behave typically, atypical. Yeah. But we in popular psychology, we don't make allowance for atypical. And we do need to. There are people who are very atypical, yes, in very many different ways. And again, like somebody who's schizophrenic, they may be responding to the family circumstances because of their schizophrenia, not because the thing is traumatic to them. Or I don't know, they may have Asperger's or something like that. They react so completely differently. You can't use the same standards. Eh? And we are starting to realize this with things like autism and Asperger's. Right? We're starting to realize that the brains don't work the same. There's a nice term for this that people are using. Right? Neuroatypical. When you are neuroatypical, your responses are atypical. Yeah. So we have to be very careful of boxing things into that, right? And this is just for me. I've seen this all my life. People say, "Where are you from?" and they try and put you there, or like, "What do you do?" and they try and box you because of what you do. No, 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 no. Joseph, when I first came to this country, yeah, I was very much in a mode of seeking and learning and growing. And I asked a lot of questions. I wanted to know stuff. I was treated like an idiot. literally. Where people would like explain stuff to you like, well, Starbucks is a coffee shop and stuff like that. I don't know. I can't think of examples. But they assumed I was stupid because I was asking questions. I'm like really? It took me a little while to realize this. I'm like, wow, seriously? Because they'd never heard anybody ever ask questions, want to know more in all their lives. Never met somebody like that. It was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. It just blew my mind. Let's see, what else does Joseph say here? Where we grow up is part of our culture. Again, Joseph, you say this so definitively. Whereas, to be accurate there, Joseph, where we grow up can be a part of our culture. That is, if we want to adopt that culture. Uh, People that I grew up with it, some of them adopted the culture, others did not. Others subscribed to the culture on the surface, but internally they couldn't stand it. They hated every second of it. Yeah. I mean, and the moment they were adults, they were gone. And they wanted nothing to do with a particular culture. So, to say that in such a definitive way, it's to me, it's not accurate, Joseph. Really not accurate. Culture is pervasive in ways conscious and unconscious. It can be if you don't live deliberately. It's the whole point of Mourner's culture and living deliberately. Way of impeccability. What's its subtitle? A toolbox for deliberate living. Yes, these things can be in your brain, yes, consciously or subconsciously. But that doesn't mean that you can't change that. I mean, you can't rewrite it, yes. I never, ever, when I was young, yes, I never subscribed to that. No. And I thought about stuff, was conscious of it, right? And like, come on, no. But it doesn't mean that I had to be rebellious or anything. I just never bought into it. This was not for me, right? A lot of things like that. So we can choose, Joseph. And this is very important, yes. And you go on to say we can transcend culture if we grow enough to do it. But even then, we're only transcending a certain part of the giant overall culture. Again, there's no reason why we cannot change the paradigm. And this is what Mourner's culture is all about. That giant overall culture that you're talking about is the paradigm, right? Superiority paradigm. Uh, Again, you're saying you're by implication in your statement there. You're saying it's we can transcend the local cultures, but not the paradigm. We can also transcend the paradigm. We can choose alternative paradigms. Many people do, but they don't not consciously aware of it, or they try to. Yes, and they want to unhook from it, but they don't have the language, they don't have the conceptuality, so they struggle. Right. So awareness is the issue. Yeah. When we get to some point, and when we started with Bina was sharing about choosing your moods. Yeah, where a lot of people, but you can't choose your moods. Your moods are your moods; they just come to you. Absolute nonsense. Of course, you can change your moods. Yes, I mean, what do the actors do? For heaven's sake, and what do people who just, well, you're in a bad mood, but you go to work, and you have to be work with customers, and you can't all be phony. You have to change your mood if you're genuine. Of course, you can change your mood. Many ways to change your mood, right? When you have to, you do. But if you want to, you can also do it. And likewise, Joseph, we can change our parameters. We can change our culture. This idea that we are always influenced by our past, I'm sorry, but it's not true. It is generally so, yes, but just because it's generally so doesn't mean it's always so. Right? And I know this absolutely 100%. Yes, firsthand. Yeah, firsthand. Like I said, I've never met anybody who's anything like me. Nobody in my family is anywhere remotely close to me. None of my school friends, nobody. Even then. And I had a social side and I had a private side. Private side was not secret. So, do you know any other person, Joseph, ever? Have you ever heard of it, ever read about it, that had a consciously, right, from age 6, had a social side and a private side? Why? Because it was about appropriateness, strategic appropriateness. How does this make me typical in any way? See what I mean, Joseph? When I honestly look at who I am, I cannot say there are any influences or not from my culture. Yeah, I was choosing what I was doing. The big themes of culture, Joseph goes on to say, are generally positive. Culture teaches universal themes of things like reciprocity, empathy, goodness, etc. At the same token, Joseph, reciprocity, you're putting it in a category of positive things, yeah. But reciprocity can be very negative. Be very careful. It's not necessarily positive, yeah. So we have to be careful. And yes, you mentioned the positive things in culture. A lot of negative things come from culture too, of course, right? Yeah, and you go on to say, although certain cultural attributes can be negative and need to be transcended, I believe it is not something we can really transcend in whole cloth, much like we can't escape our family environmental lessons. No, absolutely. This I know for a fact is not so. We can. We can. I've seen many people transcend their cultures. Absolutely. Because I've seen them change cultures. And, I mentioned this example before. When I had the sword and the knife store, right? Was a really cool store, a really awesome store. And it was like a little mini museum, or like if you play like World of Warcraft or any of those type of games, any of the fantasy games, it was an armory, and a way better armory than any you saw in the game there. Maybe it's better. But anyway, it was very cool. So I got people from all over the show. It was like a tourist attraction in Central California, right? People came from quite far away, even came from out of state sometimes to see the store. And as a result, I got people who were really into the stuff, right? Into the different cultures, Renaissance, medieval, samurai, whatever, right? And in particular with the samurai guy, I knew two guys, and both of them were more samurai than, I don't know, than anything else, right? That was how they thought. That was how they spoke. Everything about them was that. Yeah? They had switched their culture. There was no, when you spoke to them and you connected to them, if you were to speak to them online, right, where they're typing, you would completely and absolutely, utterly assume that they were Japanese. You would have no idea that they were not. Yeah. And this was it really was profound in that case, how much their immersion pulled them into this. Right. And likewise, Bina, her immersion into what we're doing, she doesn't think in Urdu anymore. She thinks in English. Yeah. When you change your inner language, it changes a lot. It changes a lot. And now that inner language isn't just like in this case from Urdu to English. No, it is from a regular language in any, whichever one it is, to the language of conceptuality. Now that you can go from English, speaking everyday English, to language of conceptuality. This is going to change profoundly. It changes you at your core. Language is something that rewires the brain, unless you're a big liar. Yeah? But even then, it has an effect on you. Because when we say things, we try and make them true because we don't want to be phonies. We don't want to be liars. Even liars don't want to be seen as liars, right? So they try and say stuff that's some way remotely connected to the truth. What we say changes us, right? And when we start to use conceptions, like the more we talk about impeccability, and especially if you're talking about impeccability as something that is desirable and good, you're training your brain to say, hey, impeccability is important. And you can't be talking about impeccability as being important without actually changing to apply this. Otherwise, you're just a phony. So that language of conceptuality actually changes who we are. And this is a way to transcend culture, to transcend our paradigm as well, right? And be very different, right? Yeah. So he says, however, how well we leave our past behind is a continuum. I have no past to leave behind. I know I said I don't want to be my earlier self, but that's not a past to leave behind. It's not the same thing. Yeah. I discovered who I was. I became aware of who I was, and I said, this needs improving. It's not a past to leave behind. I'm not ashamed of being an nincompoop. I'm not embarrassed at being an nincompoop. It's just the reality, right? I don't have to leave it behind. It was just a starting point. That was it. Yeah. What happened around me was of no consequence to me. What I was doing was doing my internal things. On the outside, yes, I did the stuff that kids are supposed to do and all of this, and on my social side. But my social side's not me. My social side, not me. So we don't have to leave that thing. I often wonder if you have rejecting your country as or what to do with the shame of apartheid. First of all, there's an assumption there, major assumption, Joseph. You have to be very careful of assumptions. And I notice when it comes to this type of thing, you tend to make these assumptions, especially about me. I have no shame about apartheid whatsoever. None. Zero. Not because I subscribe to it. I got into trouble for hanging out with other races and all that, right? So I was very non-conformist in apartheid. I treated people like people. Where they were from, what color they were, made no difference to me. It's totally irrelevant. Yeah, my behavior lent to that. Didn't matter whether you were a convict or some important person. To me, you always were people. Yes, and I say convict specifically because at one point convict labor came to work in the yard and stuff like that. And I spoke to them. They were interesting to talk to. I wanted to learn about their psychology, what made them think, what made them tick. I mean, they were just fascinating to me. But they were people as well, right? Even though they were convicts, they were still people. Doesn't matter. Just giving an example. Now, furthermore, on the shame of apartheid, you have to understand something about apartheid. Very few people do. Yes, that that yes, there were a small group of racist people, very small. They were a minority. They manipulated through gerrymandering. They manipulated their way into power. However, the majority of the people that then supported them, they did this because the people in power worked through the church, and they were in control of the church. And so they got the ministers to preach the stuff. So the good people who are very sincerely, innocently, they're doing what the minister says. This is your rule number one. Remember, I told you I didn't grow up in a white culture. I grew up in an obedience culture. It didn't matter what color you were, right? Whether you were black or colored or Indian or Chinese, whatever. If you grew up Christian, then you had to be obedient. Yeah. And I saw this all across the races, right? Same logic, because the religion is what was the dominant factor in the culture. Yes, and that's an obedience culture. And as a result of this obedience to the church and following along, people did what they thought was right. And they were taught that mixing the races was sinful and bad, and it was against God's law and against nature and all of this kind of nonsense, right? My point is they went along with the ideology of apartheid, which isn't apartheid isn't a discrimination policy. It means separateness, apartheid, separateness, literally translated. The idea wasn't to suppress, at least from the point of view of the average person in the street, right? The person who just believes in, who doesn't really know what's going on, right? They were doing this because they just think, well, this is the right way to do things. You can't have mixed and all this. It's going to be it's ridiculous when you think of it now, but you have to grow up in it to really understand the innocence and the naivety and the lack of awareness. Right? And people didn't think things through. They just accepted, and oh, it's the wrong thing to do. So apartheid wasn't about discrimination for the racists in power. Yes, that was their agenda. But for the man on the street, this was not their agenda. They were doing what they thought was the right thing, the godly thing. So how can you feel shame about that? I was doing what I thought was right. There's no shame there, right? Furthermore, when they did wake up finally, over time and became aware, they did something that's not been done anywhere else in the world. Yes. At the time when Mandela was released, yeah? F.W. de Klerk, who won the Nobel Prize alongside Mandela. Very few people remember this, right? Him and Mandela won it jointly for doing what they did. Not just Mandela on his own. You have to be careful. You have to be careful with assumptions. People don't know the details. Anyway, so one of the reasons why F.W. de Klerk, the prime minister at the time, why he was also given, he insisted that the handover of power from the minority to the majority was done legally. Yeah, he wanted to avoid later problems and people saying this and that. Yeah, but we were forced to. And it's very astute. It was a very sophisticated, very smart thing. So he held a referendum. He held a referendum with the voters at that time, who were the whites, and he says, do you want to hand over power to the majority, to the non-white majority? Yes. You can't say black because there are other factors, Indian and Chinese, colored. It's a complicated situation racially, right? Americans, it's all black and white. No, it wasn't black and white. There's multiple stuff involved. Um, anyway, my point is, those same people who had been supporting apartheid, for decades now, they voted as a minority, 10% minority. They voted to hand over power to a majority much greater than them. Never happened anywhere else in the world, ever. So where is the shame here of apartheid? When they became aware, they did what was right, even though it wasn't in their interest. Yeah. If in 1966, when everybody got to vote in America, if that had been a referendum at the time, you tell me, you were around in 1966, Joseph. You remember those times. Do you think that the minority, if the situation had been reversed, right? In America, it was a 90% majority saying, okay, 10% you can have a vote. If it had been the reverse, if there'd been 10% and they're handing over a majority to 90% in America, do you think they would have done that? Hell no. Hell no. I feel very confident to say this. Yes. So my point is, you say, I wonder if you're rejecting your country if it has to do with the shame of apartheid. I'm not rejecting my country at all. That's another assumption. Just because I am not saying I'm a South African, I cannot say I'm a South African. It's dishonest, it's disingenuous. Sorry, I can't say it. It's just, how is it accurate? How am I a typical South African? And furthermore, you said the other day, in another comment somewhere, you said something about being a white South African. I thought about this and I never got to comment on it, which I'm glad I remember it now. In all my childhood, not once ever did one single one of my friends ever refer to themselves as a white South African. Never, never, never. Not once. So I don't know where this identity is supposed to come from, right? It wasn't even a thought to say that. Yeah. If somebody had said, well, what are you? Yes, my nationality is South African. But they would have said, I'm Christian. Most of them. And some of them who went into the religion that much, I don't know. They would say, well, I'm I don't know, from your province maybe, or something like that. Or other, maybe they would associate with a football team, a rugby team, or something like that, right? Or I'm a sportsman, a sports player, something like that. But white, never. Or white South African, never. I never heard anybody identify that way. Yes, never, never. Not as an identity, no. There are racists, yes, who had racist ideas, but they still didn't identify that way, which is rather interesting, even though they were against, I'm better, I'm superior, white, but they never identified that way, which is fascinating. I'm just saying that I can't have the stuff that you think I have. You watch too much TV in this stuff, Joseph, and too much propaganda influencing this. I mean, this whole idea of the shame of apartheid, it's just not something that is there. Yeah. Because there's nothing to be ashamed about. People were trying to do the right thing for the wrong reasons. The people who were in charge, yes, like our current government now, we have a similar situation. People in power, they don't really represent the people that voted for them. People are voting under false pretenses, false promises, false ideas, and they're going to discover this at some point. Well, in South Africa, they did. Okay. And to carry on, a family example would be a father who is very belligerent and abusive in his own way. Most often, a son would either become like him, even though they might not realize it, or reject how he is and become whatever is the opposite of what he represents. Now, that is typically yes. But there's also a case, Joseph, where the child is choosing their own path on their own logic, which is the father is irrelevant or the mother is irrelevant. Yeah. It's not rejecting them. It's just I'm following the path that I want to follow, that pleases me, that makes me happy. And as whatever parent is totally irrelevant. And I've seen this plenty of times, and I know this is my own case. I chose my own path. I created who I am myself out of choice, not out of reaction. Out of choice, not out of reaction. Right? The last way would be to run from his essence. Well, these are all assumptions that aren't borne out. They are popularized, generalized assumptions, Joseph. And it's a flaw. I'm sorry, Joseph, but you keep making this flawed thinking. You keep assuming that the general is the always, and it's not. You don't make any allowance for exception. And there's so many exceptions that disprove your rules all the time. Just because they are typically so doesn't make them always so. But now, and Joseph continues to say, but no matter how far we run, we have to deal with it. Again, it's an assumption that you're running away. Uh, you know, I created myself. I'm not to run away from. I'm very happy with what I created. I'm very happy with who I am. Yes, it took me a lot of work, a lot of effort. But still, it was a joy doing it. It was what I really wanted to do, and I followed my passion. Very consciously, very deliberately from age 10. I was focused on doing my own thing. I didn't be bothered with whatever other stuff was. It wasn't pertinent and relevant to me. My social side, yes, I know I was very successful and fluid and popular and whatever. I managed my social life very well. I didn't have any problems as such, right? And where there potentially could be, I used strategy to get out of it. But that social side is not me. It didn't have any effect and influence on me. Like wearing the bro cream. It had nothing to do with my personality and my inner self, right? It was just, oh, I gotta look cool to fit in, and even then I couldn't even do that. Well, oh, that's not really functional, right? So it's inconsequential. It's very minor, trivial. Yeah. People can be bicultural or multicultural, and they can be monocultural, and they can be acultural, as in atypical. Yes, they can have their own unique private cultures, and that to me is really where most people are at, especially people who choose a little bit in their lives. Some people just subscribe, but even in subscription, they choose. I mentioned this before, right? The community I first grew up, very tiny little town, super conservative. The culture one step away from being Amish. When I listened to those people, I went to my father on his rounds, right? He was a doctor, and he would go out far, drive 2, 3 hours, and I'd go with him sometimes, open the gates for him, right? But now when he gets there, obviously, if he's making a 3-hour journey to get to somebody, on a remote farm somewhere, somebody's really seriously ill. Otherwise, they brought him into town, right? Because it's more expensive to have a doctor come out. So somebody busy dying, and everybody's all serious, and all the relatives are there. And of course, kids are seen but not heard. I was an absolute expert at this. I was invisible. And everybody's all serious, and they're talking about serious stuff. And of course, life and death issues and religion comes into it. I heard their private opinions. I heard their private opinions. And now it's really serious, right? Somebody's dying, and it's like, close to you, and you might need to. And you start to hear the doubts as well, because at a time like that, you really are pressed. Your honesty is being pressed. And so I heard the differences. I heard the differences in their private religious views of a very, very conformist society. On the outside, you would say they're all the same. This was fascinating to me, and absolutely mind blowing how their private doubts were there. And it was also broke my heart because they were inadvertent hypocrites. They were so hooked to being obedient, those doubts ate them up from inside. Ate them up from inside. Really, really, really bothered them, right? It really pressured them in a very big way. Yeah. So again, Joseph, how am I going to be part of a culture when I'm observing things from this? And that's from age 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, my earliest memories of. Yeah, to treat all people the same is a great accomplishment. Yes, it is, Joseph, and I strive for that in Mourner's culture. Now, when we say treat the same, the sameness is in celebrating their difference. Not in the same way as, hello, how are you? Where are you from? How old are you? What's your job? Not that kind of the same. The same in having the same freedom to celebrate variability, celebrate the difference. That's the sameness in Mourner's culture. Yes? We treat everybody relative to himself. To uh, okay. I know you say this here. I'll go back to the question for Bina, right? No offense, but to state my opinions on topics or issues does not mean I don't realize there can be exceptions. Joseph, I know you know the exceptions. I am taking issue with how you express yourself. What you mean and what you believe and what you say is not the same thing. Yes. If somebody doesn't know you and reads what you say, you are stating very absolutely, because you don't make allowance. You don't say generally. So now in a couple of comments there, you said typically. Yeah. But you very often state things as definitively as absolutes. And it is that statement of saying it that way which is the problem, not what you personally believe. Of course, you know the exceptions, but you don't say that. You don't make allowance for it. And certainly, Joseph, your comment about shame of apartheid with me, I've explained myself and given extra detail on me, but you haven't updated. You don't treat me as an exception. Yeah. So yes, you know there are exceptions, but when it comes to actually applying it, like to me, I, I've said this many, many, many times to you, and you just kind of continue with the same thing all the time. It's almost like you're refusing to treat me as an exception. Yeah. Am I an exception, Joseph? Let me ask you right up now. It's an assumption you are making that because I say one thing, I don't cotton to any variations. I am objecting to what you say, Joseph. Exactly. I know you have alternative opinions, but express it that way. It is your expression that's the issue. You create a false idea with how you express yourself. So let me ask you right out here, am I an exception? And Bina, will you answer his question there about Pakistan, Joseph's question? But answer my question.
Okay.
Am I an exception, Joseph? An exception, and you can pick and choose how many different contexts you want to apply that. Yes. I mean, I would challenge you to find a context in which I am typical. I challenge you. All right. All right. I'll be back in a moment. Bina, will you answer
Okay, what is the
Joseph's question?
question? No, what is the question?
Oh,
Because I'm not
oh,
there.
oh,
So,
He says, I could be wrong, but isn't Pakistan so very much an obedience culture? The question is, how much does that apply to Bina? That's the question. Yeah.
okay, that's the question. I
I mean,
understand that.
yeah.
Yes, I understand that. Okay. First, I want to say something about this. And okay, asking anyone about like, okay, oh yes, you are feeling ashamed about your origin or your country or your culture or your family or anything. Mostly, what I have observed, it happens with when people have some association with that. I never seen anyone asking this question about born American people, born Britishers. They don't ask them that, oh, you are feeling ashamed of, because we have some associations about certain areas of the world. This is something I am observing. I'm not saying that you are doing this, but this is what, because mostly the question I never saw that, okay, some people are asking to them, because in our mind, we assume that they don't have any shame or guilt or anything. Okay, that shame or guilt or anything can come from the way people treat other people, racism, biasness, or any other kind of this type of behaviors. So it comes back to how people assume things and how people associate things. If someone is coming from Brazil, South Africa, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, African countries, this is a question, because oh, we have this assumption they must be or they might be feeling ashamed of. Why they would do that? Question come back to us, because some of us or some of the people were treating them differently, that might be the case. Otherwise, why would anyone feel that? Okay, this is the general thing I personally feel. Okay, coming back to the obedient culture. Yes, yes, obedience culture very much exists in my country, of course, because of religion also, because of the mutual culture we have as when we were as a subcontinent, because Hinduism is very strictly relies on or is structured on obedience, and we were living together for God knows how long. Of course, like okay, at least 1100 years were like that. 1,000 years were some Muslim rulers, and then of course 100 years of Britishers. So at least 1100 years we were living together. And of course, things do exchange when you are living together with someone on daily basis. You adapt a lot. Like Hindus adapt a lot from Islamic culture, and of course, Muslims adopt a lot from Hindu culture. And I'm saying culture, not religion here. But also, the religion is also based on that. Because in that culture, I need to give you a bit of definition or like explanation about this, some of background. That Hindu culture was divided when they were establishing the society. It was considered as that okay, some people who are more into like about thinking, making policies and writing, and so they says that okay, consider a society as a human body, and people who are doing involved in and are good at writing and creative side, think of them as the head of the society, like okay, the human body. And then they have like people who are more into like okay, are artisans and other people, okay, they are like the hands and arms of the, or soldiers, they are arms of the society. And they have other things. And when people are who are not literate and completely okay, they have no skills, so of course they are going to they need to also earn some money, so they are going to take care of some labors. This is how it was based on a very good intent. They were just trying to establish a society based on appropriateness. But what happens after that? It all transformed into caste system. Oh, the
Yeah,
heads are the nobles one, and of course they cannot be like okay treated as the feet people and all that. That was the basic thing. It was built.
hierarchy, dominance,
It was
hierarchy.
not, the intent was very good. They were trying to really establish a society based on appropriateness, but it turns out into, and of course some people get find a leeway there, and then they turned it into the hierarchy system. And we were living together, so yes, it was like also that. But also in our religion, Hinduism also, Sikhism also, and Islam, they have a like a very emphasis, very much emphasis on giving respect to your parents, giving respect to your teachers, giving respect to your in-laws. Okay, in Islam, at least they say that okay, you have at least like okay, three types of parents. So your parents are like okay, your real biological parents, and people who teach you something. Your teachers, they are also need to be treated as your parents. It was because that idea was, the basic idea was to treat seniors because of their experiences, that they have things, of course they have experience, and to establish the society as a structure. That was the idea, that was the intent. It turns into again a superiority paradigm. Okay, now we have this thing from the religion, so we are going to do that. We have this obedience culture, very much so. Yes, I agree that things are changing, but not. I can't say that okay in a positive way. When like excess breed excess, this is what still always say that when you have something very really enforced, of course people are going to rebel about that, and of course this is what is happening. Coming back to me, I assume that you were asking about me. In my culture, in my personal family culture, my father, who died when I was just 5 years old, but uh, he made it sure, like really
Transition,
emphasized
yeah.
on, yes, his transition. He made it sure, like really emphasized on that to make choices. Because you know that okay, in Islam there are different school of thoughts like Shias and Sunnis and Wahhabis and all that, and people do ask, oh, which fiqh you belong to. My father always say that this is my choice and I'm going to make whenever I want to. Nothing. Okay, I don't belong to. I'm just a Muslim, and he was a practicing Muslim. And he said this to my mother also, that my children are going to make their own choices. You have to choose. You have to choose. This was something He was saying it deliberately. He was saying it,
Yeah,
asking
which is
questions.
very um,
Anti.
non-obedience.
Yes, yes, anti-obedient
Well,
culture.
then anti, more non
Yeah,
than anti,
yes,
right?
non-obedient
Yeah.
culture. Also, that asking questions. I that's why I share many times that okay, when I get birth, my mother say that oh, on 6th of June I gave birth to a big question mark because I was asking questions about everything. When they have to say something like Bina, you have to behave in a certain way, I used to ask why. And my father never get offended with that. He says that, okay, yes, this is the reason why you are doing this, why you have to do this. And same, my mother sometimes she gets irritated, like, okay, why you always have? Because she's assumed that okay, I'm questioning her authority and integrity about this. But asking questions, making your choices, sharing with openness. My mother always like, okay, I shared it's a very profound story. I shared with everyone that my mother says to us, like very few lessons from her. The first one, treat your parents as human first. She didn't ask for respect and anything. She says, treat us as humans first. So, like we can have flaws, we can make mistakes. We also have desires. We also have needs. We also have, of course, low and high times and things like that. If something is happening to you, it can happen to us also. So don't
I
assume that
love
we are.
this. I love this that your mother said to you this, by the way. It's a
Yeah, she says,
huge
okay,
deal.
treat your parents as human first. So don't take everything like, okay, oh, 100% blindly faith on that, whatever my mother is saying. No, she's also human. So she
Yeah.
gave the responsibility or our responsibility to us that, okay, oh, it's your own responsibility to make choices. Of course, now I can explain it and articulate it in a better way. But that was the thing. She says that treat your parents as human first, and
Fantastic.
this was
Absolutely
one of very
fantastic.
few lessons. The second one was that okay, oh, do whatever you want to. She said okay,
Mother actually
kidnap
told her
someone.
children,
And she
do
says
whatever you want.
okay, yeah, do the robbery, kidnap someone, kill someone, whatever you want to, break it, do it. And we were like really wide open eyes, we were listening
Genius.
like seriously.
Genius.
And she
Genius.
says, yes, do whatever you want to in your life, but always come and tell me. And we're like, seriously, Mama, who can just come and say that, oh, Mama, I just did that, like we'll do the robbery and all that and kidnap someone.
Unbelievable.
And
Yeah.
it was like a very sophisticated like manipulation. This is how like really disappointing for us.
Yeah.
But what she was doing, that take your responsibility. You have to have courage and you have to have this strength that okay, whatever I have done, I am responsible for it, and I can, of course, I need to acknowledge that. Now the other part was that okay, how can you just come and say to your mama that okay, oh mama, I did that? No, so of course you are not going to do any bad thing, but also that make deliberate choice. What she's was emphasizing, make and take your responsibility. So my culture of
Exactly.
obedience,
Exactly.
I still, okay, the obedience part, I still don't raise my voice against my mother. No, I don't argue with her, of course. When she says something, I try to do as much as I can, but we, of course, we share that. Okay, Mama, it's not, no, this is impossible. This is whatever the reasons. But yes, the culture of obedience, that yes, she's the head of the family. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
She makes, of course, decisions. Yes. But it's not like that she's making decisions in isolation, like completely, oh, this is what I'm doing. She's not a dictator. No, so it's a balance. Yes, for you it might be very strange, or in America, people, it might be very strange. But oh, the mother is like, she's not a dictator. She just said that okay, yes, okay, go ahead, do those things. Okay, no problem. She says that whenever people say, oh, your daughter is very good, and okay, yes, I'm a very good person. Or like my teachers, some tutors and teachers and instructors, they were saying that, and my mother says, I don't trust you. I trust my daughter because this is
There you go.
the one who I brought up. So I know what she will be
So
doing.
a very atypical, unique culture, right? That you have,
Yes.
where
Yes.
choice is emphasized. Choice
Oh,
is
yes.
emphasized.
Oh, yes.
I want to comment here to say in Mourner's culture and what Bina and I specifically are about. Yes,
Yes.
ADU, awareness, discernment, understanding for the purposes of application. doing, doing. Now I want to
Yes.
get to that discernment. Yes, we talk about discernment a
Yes.
lot, but what does this actually mean? To be discerning is not just to grab onto the surface of things. Let's take Joseph's question. Both of you questioning things from your cultures at an early age. Oh no, the previous one. Interesting that you and Saul both come from an obedience culture. By implication, Joseph, by implication, you are implying that obedience cultures are in some way influential and significant. Yes, in us. Yeah. When Bina is just explaining how it's not so. And secondly, the next thing there, right? So discernment on that statement, to apply discernment says, yes, it is true that we come from obedience cultures, but it's not true necessarily that it's influential on us, right? Just because we come from obedience cultures, which is true, it doesn't mean that this had an effect on us. No, that's an assumption, right? So discernment, we have to say, yes, those are facts that we come from it, but how much, if any, were these affected, right? That's a whole different discussion. And Bina was just explaining how choice and her mother specifically told her to go and do whatever she wants. Yeah, just tell her about it. So it's you can't make any inference about obedience culture being influential. And in the next point of view, both of you questioning things from your cultures at an early age. Actually, this does not apply to me. I didn't question my culture.
No.
It was obviously nonsensical. Sorry, there was no questioning. It was like duh. I mean, I didn't have to question anything. It was like self-evidently uh, didn't make sense, didn't add up, didn't have value. There's no questioning.
And for
No
me,
need
it
to
was,
question.
I was in a very
Yeah,
protected environment, very limited circle, like my family. So I was not exposed to that obedient culture that, okay, yes, some in school, some teachers demands that, okay, you have to just blindly follow things. That was the thing. But I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to say that. So in a way, yes. Again, coming back to the same point, sir. I never heard anyone asking this question that, oh, you where you are from, at America, and that, okay, someone is not saying that, then they will say, oh, you are hiding it because of shame and embarrassment. No, it happens with people coming from specific areas, because people assume that they must have something about it. We don't have anything like that. There's no nothing like this. So for
right.
us, yes, if I belong to South Africa, Africa, belong to Nigeria, or belong to Brazil, or belong to Iceland, it doesn't make any difference. Or Afghanistan,
It's
who I am.
happenstance. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. We need to make this discernment says. I need to take what are these circumstances and discern whether or not they are happenstance, a circumstance that happens to be, that's what happenstance means, or if that happens to be influential. It may be or
And
may
this
not
is
be. And
and,
in
and
our
this is what
cases,
Don
they
Juan
aren't.
was saying. This is what Don Juan
Exactly.
was amused about.
Exactly.
Like, okay, why, Carlos?
Right.
Why you are asking?
Right.
Don Juan was not
Right.
embarrassed about his
Right.
lineage, not at all.
Right.
But
Right.
of course, he was not thinking of Carlos, that, oh, he
Yeah.
has some superiority or some okay, inferiority about coming from America. Nothing. So he was saying it's useless. That's why
Exactly.
he was laughing. So that is
Exactly.
completely relatable now, and
Exactly.
understanding, like, okay, for
Exactly.
us it's like completely unnecessary question,
Right.
completely
Right.
unnecessary.
So Joseph, anybody reading your comments, and I will stand by this, please. Anybody reading Joseph's comments, like especially those last ones there, on the surface, most people, I will put money on this. Most people will take it that you are. You have this idea that these are influences on us, right? You're putting us into a box of a kind, into a category of a kind, right? uh, three comments, right? Interesting that both Sil and both come from an obedience culture. Both of you questioning things from an early age. Both coming from what sounds like extremely stratified society. As a sequence of comments, those imply and indicate an assumption that this was influential in our lives when we're just busy explaining to you how it's not. So the comment's appropriateness is a bit questionable here, right? We are very clearly explaining to you how it's not a factor. Furthermore, right, Joseph, those are factually true, but influentially not so. And we have to be very careful because we're always looking to say, who is this person? Where are they from? How do they? We seek to understand people and know them through these factors. Where are they from? In other words, how are they influenced? Their backgrounds. But that's not an accurate way to know people. Get to know people by getting to know them. Right? If you want to put Bina and I into a category, yes, when you have questions and people ask you this, that, and then the last one they say other, we fit into other. Yeah, and even in other, you can think of Bina and I. If you want to have a conception of us, you want to put us in a category of some time, put us into the category of anomaly. Yeah. Hey, the dweller says. The dweller of what? The dweller of what? All right. What kind of a dweller? The dweller. That's really interesting. I mean, are you? I'm curious to know what's behind this. Yes, yes. I am acknowledging you, dweller. The moment you came on, it's exactly what I did, right? Hello. But I'm curious to know how this name comes about. I mean, the dweller. There's just I don't know. It seems like there's a bit more to that. I'm curious. I'm curious to know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting that you're asking for acknowledgement, especially while I was busy doing it also. Yeah. Excellent. Continue. My name is Michael Dominic. I am Lord of Gods. Wow. Wow. And can you elaborate on that? Now, yes, and a nice example, Joseph. We had something similar yesterday. I respond to what people say. Yeah, not to what I believe they mean or what I think they mean or what they might mean. I respond to what they say. This is a great courtesy. Yeah, it's a great generosity to respond to what people say. Yes, and to take them at their word. If dweller says, "I'm the Lord of Gods," okay, you say that. I have no reason to disbelieve you. Yeah, uh, yeah. So he says, I am the Lord of Gods, and the physical owner of the universe is all you need worry about. I am showing you where names follow one's actions. I have many names in this life. I was named Michael Dominic. Okay, I'm not sure why I have to remember it, first of all. And secondly, you say all you need worry about. I don't worry about anything. So I don't care for worrying, right? Someone named Source came and visited me and told me I was the dweller. I have many accounts and many names. Very interesting. So somebody told you you are this. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean you actually are it. All you know is that they said you are, right? So again, discernment. See, when we get into discernment, it opens up a whole different ball of wax. We tend to believe stuff without real evidence for it because it's convenient to believe it. Or we want to believe it. Yeah, it's easy to believe. I have to go, my guys here. Uh, I can, for half a decade, nobody was able to talk to me, and yet today, this is the third time in a row. Ah, very cool. Yeah. So ask me anything. This is a great chance. The dweller. Right now, you came right at the end of where we have to go, and I unfortunately have to go. Somebody's here that is helping with things, and I we normally we're already 11:20. We normally end at about 11 o'clock, so we're already over time. So we'll have to postpone any questions that we have for another time, unless you have any questions for the dweller, Bina.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay. No, this
The
is the
dweller
time,
says,
but
yeah,
that was, yes, that was really fun. That okay, yes, and we would love to have
yeah,
you again. And then we would, because we today we got busy into this whole long discussion about this coming from specific area or something, region or whatever, or anything
it's
from
really about identity and influence.
exactly.
Yes,
That's why I was saying it's all
and
about like
and
that.
and assumptions
Yes,
as to
because
how we are. Yeah, we assume a lot, but sometimes we
yes,
can
and
be self-created.
it was appropriate because this is exactly what Don Juan was saying, and then Carlos was feeling a bit like embarrassed and all that, because if for him, for Don Juan, at least so far, what Don Juan was saying, that it's irrelevant, stupid. Think about these things. Yes. So that is something very interesting about the discussion. But we will see you guys tomorrow because we are already over the time now.
Over time,
You can, of course, you can catch us again tomorrow, and we would love to. Of course, I would love to ask you more questions, Derek. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the dweller says, I'm not one of fear myself. I like you, sir. Oh, thank you. The dweller is a reference to who said it. I have been all names. It is not a concern to me, nor my office authenticity. Do you see those duplicates? You understand those are impossible to duplicate, yet they do. That's a good sign. It's a jump in timeline. Very interesting. Dweller, it's a little hard to follow your expression jumps a bit. So, yeah, I would like to hear more because it's very interesting. I like to explore people from where they come from, not where I think they're from, but in their own terms. Yes. So I try to leave my own assumptions outside. Yeah. And I practice discernment at the same time, right? It's very helpful. Yeah, nothing new. Yeah, we have to go. I know it's nothing new. They have to go, but we try and go as appropriate when we can, and we will go longer. But yeah, today's not one of those days, unfortunately. All right, bye bye everybody. Bye 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 bye. I'm not even gonna make space for Bina's usual sign off. She's gotta go.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry,
Okay.
Bina.
Okay.
Sorry,
Bye
sorry.
for now.
All right.
No. Bye for
All right.
now.
Bye
See
bye.
you guys tomorrow.
Bye bye. Bye bye, Joseph. Bye bye, Joseph. And also Norma. I didn't hear more from Norma. So for me to ignore you, Norma, I just didn't see any more comments from you. So love that you were here, Norma. All right. Bye bye, everybody.